Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started. Hi everyone, welcome to today's event. I'm Laura Dillon with MSDynamicsWorld, and we're here today for a session all about Dynamics 365 for customer engagement. What's new in sales in the spring 2018 release? Our presenters today are Mark Avis and Ken Farmer with Dyn 365 Pros, and it's great to have them here with us today. So as we get started, please know that we do welcome your questions. You can answer them at any during the presentation in the Q&A box on the right side of the event window. And I know that our presenters will be leaving time at the end to get to as many of them as they can. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand things off to Mark to get us started.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Hi, everyone, and thanks for making time for us today. And on behalf of my firm, Dyn 365 Pros, MSDynamicsWorld, the folks at Avantiico, welcome to today's presentation. Dyn 365 Pros is a Microsoft partner. We focus on the customer engagement portion of the Dynamics 365 platform. In other words, sales, marketing, and customer service. Avantiico, another Microsoft partner, they focus on finance and operation. We've teamed up not just to deliver today's webinar, but also to deliver excellence in Dynamics 365 implementation and support. And now just for a little housekeeping, all the attendee microphones have been muted to eliminate background noise. However, as Laura mentioned, we do encourage you to contribute questions and comments. Feel free to submit those into your WebEx dashboard, and we'll get to them near the conclusion of today's presentation. I'm Mark Avis, VP of Sales and Marketing with Dyn 365 Pros. My colleague, Ken Farmer, you can see him there. He's our President and Chief Solution Architect. He's going to do the real work today, providing a demonstration in a live Dynamics 365 environment. All right, so I don't want to assume that everyone here in attendance is familiar with Dynamics 365, so let's talk just a bit about what sets it apart. As you probably know, for a long time, enterprise-level solutions have been siloed with little interoperability or integration. CRM data being siloed in one database, ERP siloed in another, and this presented more than just an inconvenience, but a real drag on productivity. We had all these workarounds like redundant data entry, spreadsheets going back and forth, lots of headaches really. Well, Dynamics 365 does an amazing job of changing all that, providing one connected platform for managing both customer-facing and internal processes. Another bonus is that you have the flexibility to just deploy the pieces and parts that you need. So if you want to start with sales and then add customer service or field service later, that's okay. Also, your users can stay very productive doing things like creating lead and contact records directly inside Outlook, which reduces redundant data entry and things like jumping around between solutions. Microsoft's done an amazing job. There's artificial intelligence working in the background to do things like analyze buyer intent, gauge the health of customer relationships, but more importantly, to provide guidance for users so they can take the right action at the right time, whether we're talking about a sales process, service process, and so on. Extensibility is built into the platform, so you don't have to worry about outgrowing the system or your investment, for that matter. And to provide a little more context and history, you know, much of what is contained in the spring release of Dynamics 365 Sales Enterprise is not new. A lot of what I'll call the foundational or fundamental functionality was brought over from Dynamics CRM, and that's not a bad thing. Lead nurture and opportunity management, business process flow, task and calendar management, email templates, integration with Outlook, quotes, orders, marketing campaigns, and so on. They've all been around quite a while, and frankly, the upside of that is these parts are very solid, very mature. We are really pumped up about the additional functionality in the spring release. So just to talk a little bit about these parts, We mentioned AI in the last slide. Dynamics 365 is constantly mining system data and exchange data if they're integrated, looking for ways to help users. So what's that look like? So the relationship assistant generates something called action cards. Now those appear sort of like little 3x5 cards, and they provide guidance on logical next steps, like moving a sales process forward. A thing called auto capture mines the data in Outlook email, searching for content that is relevant to an opportunity or an account, and suggests perhaps that these emails should be tracked for the sake of the user or their team. Email engagement may be my personal favorite. This allows you to see how engaged someone is with your email communication. It tells you if the email recipient has opened the email, when it was opened, how many times, links or attachments they clicked on. And this is really invaluable information, especially for someone in a sales role. If social selling is a hot topic in your office or perhaps among your clients, you're going to want to look into how LinkedIn integration helps with lead gen and sales. If you're using the LinkedIn Sales Navigator team license and the Enterprise Sales app of Dynamics 365, or the Relationship Sales SKU, that's something new. It's a bundle of these two. There's a free widget that brings LinkedIn lead and account data right into Dynamics 365, allows you to sync messages and so forth. The new web-based connector for Outlook replaces that old client-based add-in and brings a lot more stability to the connection as well as new functionality. There's a new interface, and this is super important. There's a new interface for sales users that provides a more consistent look and feel between desktop and mobile devices. If you use the old mobile app, it didn't look anything like the browser version of Dynamics 365, and that's something that we and our clients found a little disconcerting and a bit impractical. Now, this new unified interface framework works much more like responsive design on your website. So, the forms in the Dynamics 365 will automatically adjust for optimal viewing on a phone or a tablet or any mobile device. There's a new SKU. It's for sellers. It's called Sales Professional. It combines a good bit of sales functionality with a good bit of customer service case management, and it's available for about 30% less than the Sales Enterprise SKU. To be honest, I don't love everything about this new SKU. It's a bit tricky when you pair it with the Sales Enterprise license. So you definitely want to read the fine print or ask your partner or ask Microsoft before you go forward with it. And at this point, we're going to pass the presentation to my colleague Ken Farmer, who is going to take us inside Dynamics 365 for sales.
Good morning, everybody. Let me just share my screen here for you. There we go. All right, so you should see my screen here in a second, if you don't right now. So as Mark said, my name is Ken Farmer. I'm the President and Solution Architect for Dynamics, the Dynamics 365 customer engagement portion. Our company is Dyn 365 Pros. And we've been around quite a while. I've been working with the Dynamics product back when it was Microsoft CRM. I was working on beta version 1 way back in 2001, 2002. Kind of fell in love with the product and what it did back then, and really it's just been improvement after improvement, some incremental, some pretty massive. So what we're going to talk about today, as Mark mentioned, is the Spring 2018 release, which is a little bit of a misnomer, but how Microsoft will name their releases is always changing. But the most recent version, version 9, so if we look at it that way, there's been, obviously a lot of different iterations over the years. This newest version is incredible. It's rock solid. It's full of some incremental improvements from the previous 8 dot whatever it was. But the most important things, I think, really are the addition and continued improvement of what Mark was talking about in terms of some of the AI pieces that are there, as well as the interface. So we really look at this as a kind of a user improvement release, and that's just us internally. We think that the new improvements to the user interface with the unified interface, as well as the AI improvements, are really what's going to be driving this forward and improving our ability to compete with anybody out there. If you pay attention to Forrester and Gartner and all of the analysts that are out there, they're loving Microsoft, they're loving the Dynamics product, and we're certainly seeing that in the marketplace. So what you see on your screen is the version 9 web interface, and we're going to spend a little bit of time in the web interface. Some of it, if you've seen Dynamics 365 lately, you will be familiar with. We're going to talk a little bit about the entire customer engagement suite, and I'm going to explain what that is. But we have 45 minutes, basically 45 minutes to get through this. So instead of trying to hit 100 things in a very short period of time, I really tried to pick out 2 or 3 or 4 that we can show you in a live demo environment, and then try to answer your questions and look at what is going to be coming down the pipeline later on. Okay, so let's talk customer engagement. Dynamics 365 now is no longer just Dynamics CRM. The Dynamics 365 family of modules is kind of how we like to look at it. Includes the new Business Central, which is ERP based on the NAV platform, the Dynamics NAV platform. That sort of sits at the very beginning, what we consider to be the very beginning of the platform. From there, it moves into the Dynamics customer engagement piece, which really involves around sales, marketing, field service, customer service, and project service. Those 5 modules are really what we as a company focus on. We do touch on everything else. We integrate to the ERP packages. We integrate to a lot of other items. There's probably an integration conversation in almost every customer deal that we do these days. We're going to focus really on the sales piece. Field service by itself, we have some videos out there talking about field service, talking about customer service, talking about marketing. There's a new marketing app that's released with a spring release, as well as the Adobe marketing platform that's integrated. Again, those are 2-hour seminars all by themselves, so we're really not going to talk much on those, but we are going to talk about sales. I want to touch briefly on field service. We're seeing a lot more interest and actually have 2 different projects going now with field service implementations. It's a fantastic module, fantastic addition to the Dynamics 365 family, allowing us to really handle very granular scheduling and control of folks in the field. So whether you're, you think about from a company and a consumer standpoint, all those companies out there that, something goes wrong at your house or with your business or something where you call and a serviceman comes out, that's what the field service piece handles. And we've done what we call field service light, which is smaller companies, not a lot of trucks or folks in the field, but they need to get a handle on just the resource scheduling portion. And we've done some of those, as well as, larger hundreds of people in the field, hundreds of trucks, trying to schedule those and keep those straight. So that's really part of field service. And you'll see, the schedule board, I'm not going to get into that now, but really allows for some, again, some great scheduling capabilities using resources, resource skills, resource availabilities, that kind of thing. Included in that is some inventory and RMA information, which really allows you then to connect up Dynamics 365 Field Service to what's happening in your ERP, whether it's going to be AX, NAV, or on what we call the upper end of the ERP spectrum. In Dynamics 365, you have finance and operations. And that's really where our partners, Avantiico, excel. They've been AX mentors and in the channel for quite some time. Their expertise is working with enterprise companies implementing AX and now finance and operations. And so the integration levels between all of these Dynamics products, Dynamics 365, as well as the other Dynamics ERP products is incredibly robust. So I recommend if you've got some interest there, you get a hold of us and we can certainly work with you on that. Inside my demo environment, I've also got some other pieces and parts. You'll see here I've got Adobe Sign, Voice of the Customer, I've got Versium. We're going to talk a little bit about Versium today. It's one of those AI pieces that you can add in that's incredibly robust, as well as the default stuff that comes with Dynamics 365. We have now Microsoft or Dynamics 365 portals. These portals are a section or a collection of customer-facing or external-facing websites provisioned in Azure that allow you to connect it to your Dynamics 365 environment and serve up things like a customer self-service portal. Or if you're in distribution manufacturing, maybe it's a partner portal where you have a partner channel that you need to manage. You need to have leads registered. You need to hand out leads. You need to see some kind of activity there, even to the point of being able to create orders and such in that portal. If you've got an interest in those, please let us know. We've got several portal projects that have either been completed recently or we're in the middle of. We love that product, and it works real well. And then, of course, the resource scheduling piece, which is a part of field service and project service. But again, we really don't have the time to get into those today. I really apologize, especially at the field service level. We really are doing some great things with the field service we can talk about later. Okay, so back to sales. So as you know, in standard Dynamics 365 navigation world, we are in the web browser. I happen to be in Chrome in this instance, but all of these things get fed up in a certain manner, right? You've got your navigation here across the top. You've got the ability to pull in various, in this case, we're looking at our sales activity dashboard. You've got a whole host of dashboards that are included with Dynamics 365, obviously depending upon your license, whether if you just have a sales professional, or excuse me, a sales enterprise license, or you just have a field service license, you're definitely going to just see the pieces and parts here that relate to the license that you've assigned to that user. If you do know, if you spent some time with Dynamics 365, you do know we can mix and match those licenses. But I'll leave that conversation to Mark and the team for another day. In this case, I just want to show you a couple of key pieces here in Dynamics 365. We're going to go and we're going to grab some lead records. And I'm going to show you some of the new pieces and how it's represented here. Then we're going to look at the Outlook piece. I've got Outlook Web Access loaded up for this demo account. And we're going to just look at some of these leads and how they come in and what they look like, right? So we're going to start with Bradford Rigby here. And we're going to open this lead record in the web browser. And as you know, all of the pieces and parts appear that have carried forward, whether it's Advanced Find, the search, which now has a new piece that was released a couple of versions ago called Relevant Search, which sort of gives you a Bing/Google representation of your search across all of your entities, and it's configurable in terms of what it looks at, but it really works well and really adds a important layer to the user experience when they're working on the web. So this is a lead record. This is a standard lead record. We're just looking at the standard lead form. Obviously, there's a couple more. I have no idea why there's a Japanese form in our demo, but there's a Japanese form there in case you're interested. This is pretty standard. This is not really anything other than out of the box. We don't like to show paid ISV products necessarily. I do want to focus on this Versium Insights piece. So this really gives you the ability, and this is a service that you load in. It's a solution that you load in that's connected to the Versium Predict service that really gives you a lot of information about the lead record that you're looking at, right? Leads can be so subjective. Some lead records are suspect pieces of data. Every company sort of looks a little bit differently at what a lead record really means to them. The nice thing is when you start bringing in these AI pieces here, you can start instantly finding out, is this somebody who's in an industry I want to work with? Let's kind of drill in, who do they know that maybe I know? That gives you the ability to go in and start grabbing from the Sales Navigator pieces. And I do apologize, we don't have the Sales Navigator subscription hooked up here, but this is the add-in for LinkedIn and the Navigator piece. We use that ourselves at Dyne365 Pros. Mark and the sales team use it to really get that, and I hate this phrase, but I'm going to use it anyway, 360 view of the prospect or the customer or the contact to really give you an idea of what's going on there and give you that extra bit of intelligence to try and get in and find out, you know, who knows who and what kinds of things is this person interested in, what kinds of skills do they have, because we can maybe speak to that. You know, generally we're looking to talk to, you know, executives within an organization, owners within an organization, C-suite people, you know, IT, line of business folks. So it really helps to be able to use that LinkedIn piece. So this is a standard lead record, and you see the business process flow here. It's going to walk you through the sales cycle, taking you from lead to an opportunity to quote, and then finally to closing the sale. All of this is great because it allows you to have all of your data contained, all of your interactions there right in front of you, so you can instantly know as a salesperson, as a sales executive, or even in the customer service side, it's the same basic structure. Really allows you to know what's going on at a glance with your prospects, your customers, your service cases, whatever the case may be. In this middle section, it's pretty general in most of the standard forms. You have what we call action or activity area. This gives you the ability to go in. This assistant is the new, what Mark was talking about, the relationship assistant. This is, and this is a demo environment, so you're not seeing a lot of it because it's dependent upon interaction. It's the interaction that you're having, the emails that are coming in perhaps. So you may have something here for Bradford where maybe he sent an email to you or to somebody in your organization last week, and nobody's really responded yet. So the assistant will pull up a card here that says, just a reminder, it looks like Bradford Rigby sent you an email and was asking you a question, do you want to act on it? So it's really data mining your system for you. It's trying to give you that next step. It's trying to lead you down the path of being a little bit more efficient. We have found this to be incredibly powerful. With every customer that we've implemented it with, they've, of course, at first, you know, salespeople are salespeople, right? They're going to say, well, I don't need that. I'm totally on top of what's going on. Well, the challenge is so much gets dropped and things fall through the cracks within any organization, within any sales process. So what this allows to have happen is the ability to try and keep those things from falling through the cracks a little bit more. Then, of course, you have your standard activities, which will be phone calls, emails, etc., and then any notes that you might want to add here. Pretty standard, pretty basic. I think we're all used to that. You hit the little hamburger button up here. Here are the little, what we would call tabs. That's kind of a holdover from previous interfaces. And we'll get more into this when we pull up the new interface and show you through that, through the Sales Hub interface. But what I want to talk about next is I want to go into the Outlook client and talk a little bit about, for those of you who have worked with Dynamics CRM / Dynamics 365 in the past, you've used previous versions, you may have worked with what we call the Outlook plugin. And that's something that gets installed, a plugin that gets installed within your localized Outlook. That's being phased off, and with it kind of started with the last release, and now with this new release, it's really become extremely powerful to just dump the Outlook plugin within Outlook and go to the new app. And the new app exists, can be installed by your administrator or can be triggered by your administrator, and then the next time you log in, it comes in and ties together. So taking a look at what happens with the Dynamics 365 for Outlook app, it lives inside, this happens to be the Outlook Web Access, of course, but it also lives inside of your local desktop Outlook and works almost exactly the same. So here's an email we got a little bit ago from somebody who, for demo purposes, is looking for some more information. You know, maybe he saw us through the website or somewhere else, but he is asking for some information. So we went in and started tracking this, created a new lead, and I'm going to show you that process here in a minute to show you how easy it is in the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. But what you see here when you open it up is that it just pulls information directly from Dynamics 365. So as a sales executive, as a seller, as a customer service person, it really doesn't matter. You have the ability to go in and start seeing some of this information. And you can see here with John that he exists in our system as a lead. And this is kind of where we start. There's no phone number listed for him, so we could certainly add his phone number here just by kind of clicking on it and starting to add that data. We have the ability across here to do a lot of other things. We can actually pull up dashboards from here. We can take a look at other pieces and parts that exist. We can create new activities. We can do all kinds of tasks related to this lead record, this person within the system, okay? So one of the things, if you've used this before, if you've seen this before, one of the biggest concerns and complaints was that now when we'd switch over to, say, this person, Jessica Smith, this Dynamics window disappears. This Dynamics app window disappears. With this new release and with the new app, you now have the ability to pin it. So we can pin this open so that now every time we go to a new record, it automatically is going to pull this up for us. So you can see that this is a new person within our system. They are not tracked. They do not exist anywhere inside of our demo environment, which this is connected to. So we're going to go ahead and track this. And you can see that or hopefully you saw, and I'm going to get off of this, go back here real quick, and then go back to Jessica and see if it pops itself back up. It says it asks you to create the contact or the lead first to avoid creating duplicates, right? So it's not there, it's not in the system, so it's asking you to go ahead and create that. So all we have to do now is go down here, unknown recipient, we hit this plus sign. How do you want to add them? Do you want to add them as a contact or a lead? In this case, they're saying, hey, contact me. We have an issue with our system. So I'm going to just assume right now that her company exists inside our system. So I'm going to go ahead and click Add Contact. And what pops up here is this Quick Create. So if you're familiar with Dynamics 365, there's a concept of Quick Create records where you can hit a plus sign, select what you want to do, and that's what gets displayed here. So you do have the ability to do some configuration here in terms of what gets shown. So I'm going to put this here and say she's the support manager. The account is Dyn365 Pros. Whoops. Guess you have to type it right, don't you? If you've seen me do these before, you know that I try and get too far ahead of myself a little bit. Okay, so it says Dyn365 Pros does exist in our environment, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I can add a phone number for her mobile. Maybe there's a business, or I can add a description. I can add the street and address if I want to, but I'm just going to go ahead and save it. By doing that, this contact immediately now is tracked. It's in CRM. It creates that contact record linked to the appropriate account, and we're ready to go. And it's tracking the email itself and allows us to see, begin to reply, which then tracks that email. So for those of you who aren't aware, by tracking an email inside of Outlook or an appointment or a task, and you can do them all, it basically places a copy of that email inside of Dynamics 365. And down the road, if this person were to delete this email out of their Outlook, the copied email inside of Dynamics 365 still exists. It won't be deleted. So you start getting that tracking capability of, again, the phrase that I hate, the full 360 view of what's going on with that contact, which rolls up to the account level. So you really can very quickly, very easily, no cut and paste, no anything else. All of a sudden, you've tied this contact in to what's going on in Dynamics 365. So if we switch over here real quick, and I'm not going to ask you to take my advice or take my word for it. Here's that John Clifton record that we had previously. I'm going to just open this up real quick. And we're going to see these are all the pieces of information that came in. It was created on this day, modified on this day. We can start seeing that, Versium Predict is going through and trying to find information about the individual, about the company, and pulling that data up. You can see anything else. We've linked it to the company. And then, of course, when we go down here, we see the full Versium. You see all kinds of new pieces and parts here that we can start getting more information about that potential lead. So let's do the same thing with that contact record that we just created for Jessica. It'll pop open here in just one second. The ability to the simple ability to take in a sales process, customer service process, doesn't matter, field service process, marketing process, to take something from somebody's Outlook with a couple of clicks and all of a sudden add that to your system is huge. It really gives you that capability of not having to rely on somebody's memory anymore, right? Mr. Memory's not your friend. It certainly isn't mine. And if I try and remember these things instead of writing them down, then I fail. I'm just going to lose. And if I try and write them down, I'm going to get something wrong. So just by being able to take and tie that email activity directly in here, it hasn't actually brought the email in yet. So it's going to do that here. It just takes a minute. It did create the record, but the email will exist here under activities. You can reply to this email. Your reply will be here as well. You can add tasks, appointments. You can track any of those, and they're going to show up in your in your activity list. If we go over here to the Dyn 365 Pros account that we created, you'll find that we've got all kinds of different activities showing up. So these are other emails that have come in. You can see by their, this was a different demo that we did, but these other emails have come in and they're tracked now. So all of this is tied together and it starts bringing you the information that you really need to do your job as a seller, as the sales manager. It really gives you all of the tools that you need right here within Dynamics 365. So having said that, looking through all of these, seeing this is the regarding pending piece here. It's being tracked, but it hasn't fully integrated. It hasn't pushed it over and saved it yet. So adding this piece here, just the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook piece that gets controlled inside of Dynamics 365. This is then hooked up to your Exchange. If you're on Office 365, it's 2 clicks to hook it up to your Exchange if you've got the right permissions to do it. You can do this on a global all users basis, or you can do it on an individual basis. Maybe it's just your sales team, perhaps, that you want to have added in here. So that really gives you the ability, that with the sales relationship assistant really gives you some power to do your job and to make sure that all the pieces and parts are working together. The data is shared across your organization, okay? So let's switch it up here real quick. We've got 20, 25 minutes, and I want to move over here and talk about the unified interface. So Mark mentioned that the unified interface is really sort of starting to head down a path of changing up the interface so that it's the same when you're looking at it perhaps on the web than it is if you're looking at it on your tablet within the Dynamics 365 app for Android, for iOS, for whatever, for Windows. and then moving to your phone. So all of that starts looking the same. To represent that, Microsoft has come up with some pre-built apps of their own. So we're going to look at the Sales Hub, but if you look through this list, excuse me, if you look through the list, you'll see a couple of different representations of this, right? You'll see the CRM Hub, you'll see Field Service or Field Resource Hub, which is specific role-based representations of the data and the process that are needed for those folks. Same thing with project resources, customer service, sales, and then of course the Sales Hub. We've been looking at this full web client version of Dynamics 365. So now I want to switch over and I want to show you the Sales Hub. This will take just a second here to load. The Sales Hub interface, the unified interface framework, if you read Microsoft's recent documentation about it, you'll see that they tell you it's not something that they generally recommend that you that you use inside of a web browser. They have a couple of reasons for that, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to get on my soapbox here real quick, and please, I apologize for it, but it's well and good that they say that, and I think their technical team is probably right in giving the warning. There are some things within the hub environments, the app environments, that aren't quite present. So things like advanced find, and there's some lists of some things that don't necessarily get represented here at the Sales Hub. But, and we've talked to our clients about this and given them the option, given them the pros and the cons, and given them the option, and many of them now are starting to go with the Sales Hub interface, because this really truly is going to be the interface that I feel and our technical team feels, and from everything we've seen, read, heard in DA sessions, this really is probably the way moving forward. So when you think about, I was on the beta, working with Beta 1 back in 2001, 2002 to where we are today, night and day, two almost completely different products. So when we look at the interface, we look at what the purpose of this interface truly was, and that was to give folks that are using a mobile device a true touch-based experience. And that's really what this Sales Hub is all driven towards. So now you see that you've got the navigation here along the left-hand side, which kind of goes back to a previous version and what they've done there. And you'll see some of those pieces in here if you were familiar with version 3, version 4. You'll see some things that kind of look familiar. But as you move through here, you'll see here on the left-hand side, this is the Sales Hub. So these are all sales-related entities and data specific to that sales role, right? So activities, accounts, contacts, leads. You've got your opportunities, perhaps competitors that are in the mix, and then down below you've got quotes, orders, and invoices. And if you touch one of those, it's going to take you to the area. Now I'm going to hit what we call the hamburger button up here. Some people call it the pancake button. I prefer hamburgers. You pop that open, and it kind of gives you the whole list. This is where we can go. You can actually drill into goals if you want to. You have, even though this is the Sales Hub, you have the ability to look at cases, because if you think about it, I'm a sales guy. I'm a sales executive in the field. I'm about to walk into one of my biggest clients. I don't want to get surprised. I don't want to walk in there and get jumped on the fact that there's some outstanding cases perhaps that I don't know anything about. So I can go ahead and click on cases, or I can hit the drop-down button and get the most recent cases perhaps that I was looking at. So even though case is not specifically a sales activity or a sales role activity, you do have the ability to take a look at the data. I think that's fantastic. I'm glad that they added that. And as a configurator, whether you're your internal sale or internal Dynamics 365 admin or your partner, can go in and add pieces and parts to this. You can add additional entities. You can build your own purpose-driven hub or app that's specific to your company, and then you can share out the URL, and then that they can use that either in their web environment or in their tablet or mobile device environment. So having said, Microsoft says, yeah, it's really geared towards the tablet and the app. It's not necessarily something that we recommend that you use on the web. I'm going to disagree with that. We as a company have gone back and forth on this. My consultants and I have drilled into it. We've talked to our customers, and we really feel that this interface is the way to go. If you've got, for instance, purpose-driven, role-based people in the field or people that you're working with in the office, this really is the best way for them to go. That's our recommendation. Obviously, there's some caveats in terms of what's there, what's not, but that would be our recommendation. So let me also show you some of the other activity here. So if we were to look at leads, for instance, so here are those lead records that we looked at before. So if you remember back in the web interface, there's actually a button up here where you can go and kind of look at your history. Here it's a little bit more specific, and this is geared to this specific record type, which I like better than what we had up here. I can go to leads, and I can say, I know I was working with a lead record. Yeah, there we go. I was working with Bradley or Bradford Rigby. So I can click on that. It's gonna pull that up for me. And again, it's touch driven, right? So if we're on here, and I happen to be using my mouse, but I also work off of a Microsoft Surface laptop. And if I'm just looking at my Surface screen, it's fully touch enabled, so I can just be, I can flip it over, I can fold it over, so I'm using it as a tablet, and I can be looking at this data purely from in a touch type interface, okay? So here's what the interface looks like. If you remember, we looked at that lead, we saw the business process flow ribbon here, we saw the various pieces and parts, we could scroll down and scroll down and scroll down and scroll down, and you would see all these other tabs. Well, within the hub interface, and this is another reason why we really like this interface, you kind of go back to the tab interface or tab configuration. So those tabs that you've built in the web interface that you just scroll down and you can get to, or you hit that, if you remember, that hamburger button up here to get to them. They're now represented for the touch user in the hub experience in the unified interface framework across the top here. So here's this Versium predicts insight piece that's going to go and it's going to pull that data that we were looking at before. I can grab the details. Here are the LinkedIn hooks. But again, you remember we don't actually have a license set up for that in this demo. I apologize. That was sort of a last-minute fail on my part. And then you can also go to the related information here. Activities, connections, documents. So if you have document linking with either OneDrive or SharePoint setup, where you're storing documents within CRM, but they're actually going to a SharePoint site or OneDrive, which you can do inside that, and then you would see documents here as well and have full capability that you would normally have within the web interface. So to me, the key pieces that a person using this might need are all contained in here. You've got your ribbon, how did you hear about us, what's the rating on this, status, contacted. So if you're familiar with the Dynamics 365 form concepts, this is your header, right? You have the ability to go in here. I'm going to click save on this real quick so that doesn't show up as an error later. We can go back to that summary piece. I can go in here and change this information. And you'll also notice within this interface, if I hover over, say, business phone, I have the ability to call out. And I don't have an app shown here, but if you're on your mobile device and you hit that same button, it's going to go ahead and use the device's phone functionality to go ahead and call that person for you. I think that's huge. For somebody in the field that's using a mobile device, in this case your phone, iPhone, Android phone, it doesn't matter. For the three of you that might still have a Windows phone, same thing, it's going to work for you. That's huge. And then once you get done with that, within the app, it's going to kick up another kind of notification after you're done with that saying, hey, do you want to store some information? Do you want to create a follow-up? Do you want to, there's a couple of questions that ask you after that. That's huge in terms of the ability for your salespeople to stay on top of what's going on, right? Predict scores. This is part of that Versium Predict Insights that gives you, they actually start predicting, you have to configure it, of course, but they start giving you scores, lead scores based on interactions, based on some other things that might be going on Same thing that we've been able to do, for instance, with Click Dimensions, which is a marketing automation piece. We're also a partner for Click Dimensions. And then now let's talk about the rest of this lead record we see here. So the business process flow ribbon is compressed, which on a tablet is fantastic because you need as much real estate as you possibly can on a smaller form factor. So in this case, it's just sort of, it's got a different graphical representation, which we really, really like, right? So very easily on here, you can see what stage are we in with this lead. We're at the qualify stage, hence the target there. And I can click on that target, and it's going to give me the underlying tasks or fields that are part of, that we've identified being part of that stage. And I can go ahead and walk through this. I can click next stage. It's going to go to the next one. It will move this from lead to, it'll create a contact record. It'll create the account record if it doesn't exist. It will go ahead then and create an opportunity, and you can start walking it through. When you do the propose, it creates a quote. So that's the process here that allows you to go in. Estimated budget, in this case, $50,000. It's a committee. I can say yes, I have identified that decision maker. Now I can then kick it to the next stage. I'm not going to just for the sake of time, but it would walk you through, and all of a sudden you're looking at a quote, or excuse me, an opportunity record that's in the develop stage, and then it of course advances in your pipeline, right? I'm just going to go ahead and, again, save this. We don't have auto-save set up on this demo environment, sorry. And a lot of the same functions that you've got that you expect at the lead level are here existing across the top, right? You can refresh the record. You can qualify it. You can change the process. You can abandon this process for whatever reason. You said, well, I don't want to necessarily qualify this lead. I don't want to disqualify them, but I want to remove them from the process for whatever reason. I can also switch the process. So if it's been identified that this lead is part of a standard lead to opportunity sales process, however, upon talking to them, I realized that this is a long-term contract, $1 million deal, whatever it is that would be the trigger for you to use a different process, it would be listed out here, and you could just switch them over to that other process. Same pieces of functionality that exist in the web version, but I'm just pointing out that you can certainly do it as you walk through here, right? Flows. If you're not familiar with Microsoft Flows, in this new version, the V9 version of Dynamics 365, flows become even more important. Power Apps, another app, become more important inside Dynamics 365, and that's only going to get more intense, and we'll be able to leverage more and more of that functionality as it moves forward. And I'm going to show you something real quickly when I pull up the actual tablet app. Send for signature. This is part of a in this case, we have Adobe Sign put in here. If you had DocuSign, it's the same thing. DocuSign has a great integration solution into Dynamics 365 as well. And then, of course, the ability to use and create Word templates so that you can take data from within this record and dump it into a Word template, manipulate it before you send it to a customer, that kind of thing. All right. So this is just kind of giving you a quick, this is what it looks like on the web in terms of the unified interface represented here in the Sales Hub, but it really gives you the ability to truly understand and see the possibilities that you've got. Again, Microsoft says, yeah, we don't really recommend that you use it in the web, in Chrome or Internet Explorer or whatever you might be using, but we do. The team here at Dynamics, or at Dyn 365 Pros, we definitely recommend that you at least start looking at it purposely. Purpose-built roles in the field might want to use this, and maybe it's your customer service folks. So if you remember, we had a customer service hub here that works a lot of the same way, but is really focused on customer service activities, and we'd love to have some time later to show you that. So let me pull up real quickly the app. So what you're going to see here, and sorry, it's been sitting idle, so I need to reload all of this stuff. Let me just go back over to here. All right. So you'll see here in a smaller form factor, Hopefully you can see that well. It's a tablet, right? And this is actually the Dynamics 365 app that you can download from any of the app stores, iOS, Android. This one happens to come from the Windows App Store because I'm on my Surface, and Surface can be using the different apps as well. So just as we were looking at, and I clicked the actual account link, not what I was trying to click. So if we were to look and see, here's the history that we were looking at before, right? Contacts, the leads that we were looking at before. It's carrying this through because it's done by user. So I can go to that Bradford Rigby record, and it's going to pull up pretty much what we saw in the main app behind, and it's going to give me the ability to look at my, there we go. So it's going to give me the ability to work with it exactly as I was looking at it on my web browser. And this is another reason why we think it's important to at least be thinking very strongly about using this with those purpose-driven, role-based individuals, because you don't want them looking around, right? In a standard implementation, whether you've been live for a day or whether you've been live for 3 years, users look for reasons not to do things. It's just kind of the way it works sometimes. And so user adoption is key. When you can solidify and make a consistent experience for that user across their devices, in the web, at their desk, it doesn't matter where they happen to be, they're not going to have any concerns about, hey, I couldn't find such and such, or I don't know, I looked. I see different things in the app than I see on the web, right? So we used to hear that all the time, and now you don't, because it's using the exact same interface than we saw here in the Sales Hub. And when you load up the app, when you first install the app and you give it your URL and log in, it actually will ask you which one of the hubs, which one of the purpose-driven hubs do you actually want to use. And you've got the Sales Hub. In our case, we had the Sales Hub, Customer Service Hub, Project Resource, Field Service, and the standard CRM. So it gave me those options. Which ones do you want to load up? In this case, we just loaded up the Sales Hub because I wanted to be able to show you kind of a one-for-one in terms of how that would look. So again, same kinds of things. You've got your ribbon across the top. You've got your sort of a tabbed interface. The main difference is instead of having on the web the navigation here on the left, it's down here. You pick it up there because of, think about it, because you're looking at trying to regain real estate on whatever form factor device that you're using, right? So let me show you what it might look like on the phone, and this is not something I'm making up here. This is the way it actually works. I can see it this way on my phone, so that changing of the whole lineup in terms of how it's all laid out here for you is based on your device and your form factor. All the tabs are still here. You can only see 3 of them, but all I have to do is click here and I can see all of the other ones. So I can see everything again that I saw on the web. I can see everything that I saw on my tablet, my phone. It's the same thing. I can click. I can get all of this information. It's all grabbing that data directly from the Dynamics 365 record. Okay? I think, to me, I really think this is powerful. Now, one of the other things I want to show you here, we talked about those flows, and I'm going to open this up here a little bit just to give us more real estate to do this. So we talked about those flows, and if you click down here, you'll see that this is your task flows. And these are 3 task flows that are set up for the app to allow you to do some specific things. So after the meeting, and it says, use this task flow to update your appointment and related records after your meeting. That's huge, right? For a guy in the field, he can click on that. It'll pop open the task flow area and start walking you through some things that you might want to do. It's been sleeping and hibernating here, so it's going to take just a second. But that gives you the ability to give a process to your people to meet the corporate objectives that you're looking for within your data, within everything that that needs to happen, right? So because I wasn't in an appointment record, it's going to ask me to select one. So I'm just going to grab this one. I'm going to go to next, and then it gives me that information. Here's the basics of that appointment, right? Because I picked an appointment record. I can add more records. I can add, I can say, well, hey, actually, no, this was not on the phone. It was something else, the subject. And then I can go in here and add as many notes as I want. And, we've seen me type, so I'm just going to do that. And then as I do that, click next, and it pulls it together. And here's the actual lead record here, where you can go in and start looking at, for instance, for this individual, here's what the record would look like, and I can go in and start identifying and changing some of this data here inside of that actual record, okay? Again, it helps drive process, drive efficiencies, and give your folks in the field the tools that they need. The other piece we talked about, right, so when we're on the device, the mobile device, we can actually go down here and make that phone call, what we talked about. So in this case, it knows that I'm on my Surface, and it says, well, how do you want to open it? So we use dial-pad voice over IP, or I can use Skype for Business. So once I set this up, it kind of will take it from there. So I'm not going to worry about it in this demo, but if you're on your phone, it's just going to use what you have on your phone. It will ask you, if you have Skype on your phone, it'll ask you, do you want to use Skype or do you want to use the phone within the device itself? Okay. I think we're running out of time, and I think I touched the highlights of what we were truly wanting to show you around the pieces and parts that exist in the new interface within the spring release. We only are going to see this move forward. I know I kind of was on my soapbox a little bit about taking a look at the Sales Hub, taking a look at those purpose-driven applications that use the unified interface framework, because it is going to be the framework moving forward. I think it's important to make sure that you're thinking about that you're planning for that, and if you have questions, by all means, make sure that you get a hold of us, and I know Mark's going to kind of wrap this up and give you any contact information, as well as I think we have some questions that we want to answer as well. Thank you, folks. I hope that this gave you some good information about at least the new Outlook, Dynamics 365 app for Outlook that we saw, as well as the new unified interface. Mark?
Hey, thanks, Ken. Laura?
Hi, yes, we do have a couple of questions. I know we've only got a couple of minutes, but we can try to take some of these if that's okay with you guys.
Sure.
Okay. If you want to put some contact information up on the screen, do you want me to give you the controls back, Mark, to do that?
Yeah, so if you make me presenter, you should be able to see.
Absolutely. There we go.
My contact info, and if I do this right, everyone else will see it as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so there's a question that says, I'm looking at my instances of Dynamics 365 V9 and I don't have the Sales Hub. How do I add it?
The Sales Hub can be added a couple of different ways. You can enable it in settings. Sometimes you have to look at the licenses that you actually have. So if you don't have a sales license, sales enterprise license, it's not going to show up for you. But if you do have the plan license, it should show up for you as well. Microsoft has reported that some folks, when they've upgraded, they don't see that right away, and so you may need to go ahead and initiate a call with Microsoft support, or we can certainly try and help you as well. But you should be able to see the Sales Hub, and again, it's all permissions based. So if you don't see it, I would check permissions first. If you're an administrator and you don't see it, I would check the license first, or the next. And then after that, I would, call us or get a hold of Microsoft support.
Great, thanks. I think we have time for one more question here. Let's see. It says, how much are the Dynamics 365 sales licenses and sales professional license?
This is Mark. I'll take one. So the Sales Enterprise license by itself is $95 per user per month. The plan license, which was not part of the question, but I'll tell you anyway. So for additional $10, you get the plan license, which includes not only Sales Enterprise, but customer service, field service, project service automation as well. The sales professional license is $65 per user per month. For any potential new customers out there, Microsoft is running a promotion this month only on new Dynamics 365 Sales Enterprise licenses. They're $40 per user per month we think it's going to be a year. We don't know if they're going to grandfather people in at the end of that year or not. But the list price for Enterprise, $95 per user per month. List price for Sales Professional, $65 per user per month.
With that, I think we're going to have to wrap it up. If you do have a question that we did not get to, we will be making your contact information available. Their email address is there on the screen. We did record today's event, and we'll be sending that out. And also, if you wouldn't mind, when you leave this event, a brief survey will pop up. If you can take a couple of seconds to do that, it does help us here at MSDW, and it helps our presenters as well. So Ken and Mark, thanks once again for some great information today and a great presentation. We really appreciate it, and have a great day, everybody.
Our pleasure.
Everyone.
Thanks.